I'm going to try to cram a ton of information in a very short period of time, so I apologize in advance if I'm talking quickly. My first question to you, really simply, is are you living your absolute ideal day? And I want to plant that seed from the beginning of this presentation because that's what I want you to be able to do by the time we're done. And I have a challenge for you at the end, so hopefully you'll get all the tools in between now and then to be able to turn your ideal day into day-to-day reality for yourself. And in order to start with that, I want to share a little bit about my journey of how I found it, if I can be selfish enough, and if that's okay. My journey, really simply, started out with a lifetime of personal development. Literally, I grew up in personal development seminars, attending workshops since I was the baby in that guy's arms, going across my first fire walk at 3 months old. My very first seminar was in my mom's belly. She was teaching people how to break through their fears and limitations by breaking bricks with their bare hands. So I always say through osmosis, I had to learn something. And in growing up around this and watching things, I had a father who at 16 years old was homeless in the back of his car. By the time I was old enough to remember things, he had 5,000, 10,000 people showing up at an event, and his thing was going big to serve as many people as humanly possible. So I took that and I was rippled into me, and I thought, well, if he went big, it's only my legacy to carry forward what he's done and to do that as well. I tried throwing my very first event with the Learning Annex. 13 people showed up, 9 of which were my family. They all paid though, so I was very excited. Bless them, thank them. And I figured out when I gave that workshop that night that there was a lot more for me to learn. I was 18 years old, and if anyone in this room has an 18-year-old, they believe that they know everything, yet they really know not much. And I looked around in my life at 18 years old and realized I had a lot to learn. And luckily I had some great advisors, some great mentors who showed me a path that would really set the foundation of who I am today. The very first lesson, which I believe a lot of today's youth and young people have forgotten, which is how to work hard and what real hard work is. Most people nowadays call sitting behind a desk and working long hours working hard, answering a few phone calls that were very difficult people, their day was ruined. Having to deal with these computer programs that crash on me every 10 minutes is just driving me nuts. So I went and spent 3 months learning how to stack lumber. And not only how to stack lumber and get through it, but how do you fall in love with it? How do you make moving pieces of wood with no one to talk to, no one to communicate with, nothing to really do besides move wood, become something that you love and you become passionate about? My first thought is I could learn how to fall in love with hard work. That would set a foundation. It's just someone who can do great things if I'm willing to work hard at it. Second, I wanted to learn how do you fall in love with life when you have very little. So I started volunteering around the world. I went to Thailand. I landed up in a village in Uganda. You can see my bedroom on the bottom. And what was beautiful was most people in that village, that was a luxury place that I got to live in. Most people in the village lived up to the right of my bedroom in mud huts with thatch roofs. And I got to meet people with no running water, no electricity, no toilets, very little food, very little supplies and resources, who were some of the most loving, caring, abundant human beings I've ever met in my life. And my thought is if I learned how to work hard and I learned how to fall in love with life in its simplest form, there's nothing in life that could ever take my legs out from under me. I would be able to not only give and serve and live and grow, but I would do it that no matter how much I had or how much went missing, I would always feel abundant and alive. And I looked around at that and became really full. Along with that, I met a man when I was living in that room where every single morning I would wake up and push open these big metal shutters. You can see them kind of where that window is behind those metal bars. And every single morning, this little old man, probably 60, 70 years old, would start at the front door of a clinic about from here to the white car outside, 100 yards or less away, and he would come out and slowly sweep the leaves off of this long, skinny dirt path. He started at the doorsteps, finished at the road, turned around, work his way back. Step, step, sweep, sweep, step, step, sweep, sweep. And every morning after he was done sweeping, he'd stand there, have the biggest smile on his face, and be so proud of what he just did. Remember, I grew up watching things be big, thinking that in order to reach the world, it had to be huge. It had to reach tons of people. It had to make difference in everyone's lives if it was ever going to matter. That's what I believed. I met this man and I wanted to know, why was there so much pride in what he did? Why was he so happy? Why was he so full of life? I remember I found a friend who could translate and we went and interviewed him. And when we interviewed him, we asked, why do you do what you do? Seemed like a simple question. I said it to her, she translated to him, he looked back and said, she translated back to me, said, because I'm supposed to? And if you've ever traveled with an American overseas, you know that we are very guilty that if someone doesn't understand what we're saying, it must mean we weren't talking loud enough for some odd reason. So I tried, why do you do what you do? And my friend who was translating looked at me like, really? So she took a second to look at him. She rephrased it, asked him again, and I don't know what he said, but I knew by his expression that he understood exactly what I was saying. This man leaned back and went, and started talking, and I was like, yes, that's it. What did he say? And my poor friend, I shook her. I was like, what did he say? And she looked at me and she said, it's really beautiful. She said, the reason I do what I do every day is what the man said. The reason I do what I do is because I believe every human being, whether it's a small person about to enter this world or a sick or elderly person about to leave this world, deserves a clear path to do so. And every morning that man had so much pride in sweeping leaves, clearing a path for people to enter and exit this world. It changed my entire paradigm of what I thought life was all about. All of a sudden I started to realize that if I could reach one person and make one difference, everything mattered. And even if it's as simple as clearing the path for them, you know that you made that difference. Taking that, I decided to come back and see, how does this belong and go in my world? Where I lived, where I grew up, how can I take these lessons home and see what I can do in the world? I got a little disillusioned because I got sucked back up into society. I started to remember, oh, if I live in a one-bedroom with my office behind a curtain, it's kind of hard to get a date and bring her home and have her be all excited about my pad. And it was very interesting learning and looking around about life. I looked at my car and saw my friends' cars, and they were getting bigger cars because they had cool jobs paying a lot of money. I was struggling paying $500 rent in a front bedroom of a house that I rented with 3 friends, thinking, what am I doing? Maybe I have to get back into this business world. Maybe I have to start really hustling again. Luckily, I set up a business online. I hustled my face off. It was a business still doing good in the world, but I worked hard and I got caught up in it. I went from struggling to pay $500 a month rent to doing well over 6 figures within 8 months. I was very proud of myself. My roommates used to stick their head in the curtain, and I'm pretty sure they thought I did something illegal online because I was making so much money so fast. From there, I followed my dream. And I wanted to then travel the world and help people. So I started traveling and speaking. I got to speak on all kinds of stages in front of all types of wonderful people. I started getting featured in the media and getting to talk on TV. And I was feeling so proud of myself. Not only that, I got to work with amazing companies all over the world. And they were paying me to travel and speak to people and inspire people. And I was so excited. I even got a gold medal from Congress at one point. I got to go to the Congress building in DC and shake a senator's hand, and they put a gold medal on my neck, and I was so proud of myself. Yet deep inside, when I looked in the mirror, I know I was made for something more. I wasn't made to become famous. I wasn't made to make money. I wasn't made to try to get myself to be this person. And when I was living my dream that I thought I was after, when I was sucked up in this mix, it was interesting because it wasn't fulfilling. I was very proud of myself. I knew I worked hard, and I knew I had earned a lot. At the same time, I realized there were some things missing. So I went to work on myself. I started to dig in and say, what can I do to get me to be the best version of myself? Me running a marathon, a triathlon, that was just an external factor that I said, if I can get myself to do that, what can I do mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and bring myself to life? So I started really hustling. And I was living my dream life. I remember the first time I made it to Europe to go speak for 500 people, and I got paid to do that, and I changed their lives, and I got rewarded for it. I was sitting under the Eiffel Tower in Paris, and I was like, I did it. I remember 18 months later being in the same situation, under the same spot, being like, I'm lonely, and this is not fun anymore. You got your dream, and it's not it. And I figured out if you don't have someone to share it with, it's not worth much. My next mission became finding the love of my life. Luckily, I found her. And I'm so blessed to have someone in my life that I can share all these moments with now. We got engaged this last year, and now we travel the world together making a difference. What's fun is, what's changed is instead of trying to build more and be more and create more and get more, now it's become how do we serve more? This last January, we did something very fun where we did a 20-day road trip across the country. We stopped in 8 cities, had a bunch of other stops, finding ways to volunteer, finding ways to give back. One of my dreams in the beginning as far as entrepreneurship was to set up a business that we could run from a laptop with Wi-Fi anywhere in the world. Whether it's tethering Wi-Fi off someone's phone, living in the jungle of Costa Rica, speaking to clients working in New York City, in the banking industry, teaching them how to perform better, or on a cruise ship using the cell phone tower on board to talk to clients and give them their best version of themselves. So that's something we're blessed to do, and now we spend our time traveling and helping people. That was my dream. That's my ideal day. My question is, let's shift to yours. Just as far as that's concerned, my thought is, if you were to think for one moment, yourself at 82 years old, how do you feel? What are you doing? Who's with you? How flexible are you as a human being? What are you up to? Now, whatever you're holding in your mind, keep it there. What do you look like walking around? Feel how you'd feel, and see if it matches up with something like this. The Iron Nun, Sister Madonna Bruder, 83 years old, last year competing in the Ironman competition in Vancouver. How many people, by raise of hands, were seeing themselves at 83 competing in the Ironman? How many people are now in their 20s, 30s, and 40s not even seeing themselves competing in the Ironman? Now imagine competing and watching her pass you during the journey and being like, dang it, should have trained harder. My belief is whatever you see in your future is where you're headed. So my question to you is, if you were to shut your eyes for just a moment and join me on this journey, let's see what your absolute ideal day looks like. So if you would, shut your eyes for a moment. If you were to wake up on the morning of your absolute ideal day, how would you feel? Where would you be? If you were to open your eyes on the morning of your absolute ideal day, what's the very first sight you'd see the moment those eyes open? If it was your perfect day, who would be there with you? On that perfect day, what's the first thing you'd go do? Imagine from 9 a.m. until noon, on that perfect morning, what's everything you'd want to experience? What would you want to learn? What would you want to share? Where would you want to go, and who would you want to be there with you? What's everything you'd want to experience on that day? Now imagine on that perfect day, what would you do for lunch? How much joy, laughter, fun would fill your mind, your body, your emotions on your perfect day? On that day, how would you spend your afternoon? From 12 p.m. to 5 p.m., what's everything you'd want to do? Who would you want to do it with? How alive would you feel? How much passion, joy, purpose? How much love for life would you have? How full would you feel with emotions? What would be possible on that day? What would you be capable of? If it was your perfect day, the type of day that you would not trade anything for, no amount of money, no amount of fame, nothing on earth would be worth trading in for that day, what would that day look like, feel like, be like? What would be that extra cherry on top that would make it worth everything for you? Would it be the people you got to share it with? The places you got to go? The experiences, the smiles, the difference you got to make? What would make that day absolutely amazing for you? At the end of that day, what would you be grateful for? Maybe thinking right now, on this day, what are you grateful for? The sights, the sounds, the people, the places. What are you truly, truly grateful for? As you open your eyes, I've only got one thing to wrap it up. It's a slight challenge. It's a philosophy that I've learned to live by. There's a lot of people nowadays that want to go out and learn what it takes to live their dreams, what it takes to have their best life, what it takes to be their best self. And they are so inspired when they learn it, and they have such a huge heart, they want to immediately pay it forward and give it and share it with someone else. The only challenge is, in that moment, if you don't live it in your own life and you don't challenge yourself to apply everything you're learning, your actions speak so loud, people can't hear the words coming out of your mouth. They watch what you do and they watch what you say and they say, that doesn't match, therefore why should I listen to your advice? My challenge to you would be learn and discover what is your absolute ideal day. Learn the tools, the strategies, the techniques, whatever it takes to turn that day into real reality for you, day-to-day life. Live it so ferociously that your actions speak so loud you don't need to say a thing to people for them to feel the ripple and to begin to follow in their dream and inspire themselves to take their actions for their ideal vision. Not only that, once you reach your absolute ideal day and once you're living with purpose and really fulfilled, find a way to pay it forward. Find a way to spread that message and ripple it out to the people around you. Thanks.